Hey there, my name is Drew. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm here today to talk about healing and what you should expect in therapy. I have been in private practice with my own therapy practice for 6 years, and I have been in this field since I was 19, which is 30 years. And if there's anything that I've realized during that time, is that the biggest healing that's happened with my clients is because of the relationship that we've built. When people feel very safe and very supported, there's a lot of room for progress, right? And a lot of the change or the progress in therapy comes from the therapeutic relationship. So if you have a comfortable enough relationship with your therapist to be able to figure out how you process things, what how you're perceived, right? How you interact, what is the patterns that you have, and then a lot if the therapist can, you know, basically show mirror back to you or let you know what your patterns are, then you start to become more aware and then you can start to make changes. Here's the thing though that a lot of people don't know. The healing is not always linear. So where you start, it's not like a progress up, right? It more looks like this, up, down, up, down, right? And there's a reason for that. Sometimes being vulnerable, which is usually what happens when you have the upslope, can lead to trying to, return to old patterns or feeling uneasy about having made that huge step in the vulnerability direction. Sorry. And so, what can happen is over time, the line can get more straight up. But in the beginning, especially if you're implementing things like EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which I've been trained in and use with my clients, it can be hard before it gets better because you're pulling from whatever's connected to a present trigger in your life, right? So as we process the present trigger, you can start to remember all of these things that maybe you hadn't realized were connected to the present problem that you're having. And therefore, remembering all those things can bring up additional difficult parts that sort of lead you to the slope down a little bit. That is normal. And a lot of people, unfortunately, believe that it's not. And so at that point is when they sometimes will decide to take a break, or they'll say, you know what, I don't want to do therapy anymore because it's not making me feel better. Well, it's because it's a process. It's not a straight line up. You should, though, having said that, you should feel some small shifts. You should feel an awareness in being able to see what you're doing, be able to look at it, without judgment, and be able to change course if needed. Or if you're doing something that you know is really unhealthy and you notice, then you're really going to notice. You're going to bring it into your therapist and you talk about it. And, then you can make some progress. But you can't change what you don't know. So when you begin therapy, you start being aware of all these things you do. It can become overwhelming and lead to feeling like you're not progressing. But it's not because you're not progressing, it's because you're noticing and seeing more things. That is normal. I would not recommend that you end therapy unless you feel unsafe with your therapist, and you've expressed to them how you feel, and there's not any change on their part, or there's no conversation about it. So, for example, if you feel let down by your therapist, you should communicate that. Communicating that to your therapist allows them to have the chance to work through that with you, which can actually really help them get a perspective of how you manage conflict or when something goes wrong, or your communication style, or whether you are clear about what you need from them or not. And then it helps them be able to get sort of like a view into what you may do in your other relationships. Or if you're having communication problems and then you communicate something that you're not getting to the therapist and it's not clear to them, or you're not really forthcoming, then that can become helpful to the therapist for them to be able to see the patterns that you're in. So, those are all some of the reasons why it may not be a definite, always progressing direction of your healing. Healing is not linear. There is very important pieces of the down part where you learn a lot about yourself. You learn who you are in those moments. You learn how you work yourself out of that. And those become very important for you and also your therapist to see. So I hope that that helps you a little bit.